Lily, who says, Dear Father Simon and crew, I'm confessing to a sin I committed as a youngster of 8 years old when we had recently moved to the Netherlands. I have a cool older cousin called Poppy, and she had cool toys which she let me play on, a horse which she let me ride, and a charming manner that bowled all grown-ups and me right over. So you can imagine my delight when I was told that Poppy, her brother Sam, and my aunt would be coming over to Holland to stay with us for 4 nights. Hooray was my instant reaction, shortly followed by, can Poppy please sleep on the pull-out bed in my room? My mum and dad exchanged glances, and then my mum said that as Poppy was older now, she was 13, she might not want to sleep in the same room as me anymore. But this didn't deter me. The days passed in anticipation, and finally the day arrived when we would pick up my cousins from Amsterdam Airport. All went well, and we spent a wonderful day touring Amsterdam. My 2 brothers were happy playing with Sam, and I was in heaven playing with Poppy. We retired to our house, and then came the problem of where everybody would sleep. We had 2 guest bedrooms in our house. My aunt was to have one, Sam the other, and Poppy would stay with me. However, it turned out that my mother was right, and Poppy didn't fancy bedding down next to her little cousin for 4 whole nights. So it was concluded that for the first night Poppy would sleep with me, and then she would switch with Sam and have the guest room all to herself. That night, we all went to go to sleep, but there was a problem. I owned, and I still have today, a 2-foot-tall, very lifelike doll. I called her Hannah and loved her very much, but Poppy was terrified of such dolls. So I dutifully put Hannah, I was a little bit resentful, but I put Hannah away from my shelf into a cupboard. It turns out that Poppy's fear of dolls stemmed from watching a movie where lots of very hideous things happened with a very hideous doll who turned out to be possessed by the devil, which is always the same in films. That's the standard thing. There's an ugly doll, oh, it's going to be possessed by the devil. Anyway, so she'd seen that when she shouldn't. And it turns out that that's what we were fighting. When I asked in the spirit of childhood innocence and curiosity what happened next, she said in the film that the doll moved when no one was looking and attacked children. Well, I scoffed at this. My doll, my precious Hannah, would that attack anyone? I don't think so. Not a chance. I thought she was amazing, but Poppy was unconvinced. The next day came and went in excitement, and when Poppy moved her things upstairs to the guest room, I was very glad I could take my doll out of her prison and display her on my shelf again. But looking at Hannah, as I drifted off to sleep, I had an idea. I woke the next morning at about 4 a.m., carefully taking my doll from the shelf. I crept upstairs to the guest bedroom and positioned her outside the door in a way that meant that she would be looking up at anyone that came out of the room. A little bit of smudged lipstick here and there. Pleased with my handiwork, I crept back into bed without waking anyone. When people started to get up, I climbed out of bed and went downstairs for breakfast. Just to make it convincing, I asked my mum, "Where's Hannah? Have you seen my doll? Where's Hannah? She's not in my room." "I don't know, sweetheart. I'm sure she'll turn up," was my mum's reply. Just at that moment, we heard an ear-piercing, ground-breaking scream from the top floor, followed by the sound of a door slamming shut. My mother and I looked at each other and then began to sprint upstairs. I was faster and more agile due to being younger, and I reached the top before my mum did, quickly tossed Hannah into my brother's room next door. Now we had my aunt, my mum, and me outside the door. "What's wrong, Poppy?" asked my aunt. "There's a doll, a devil doll outside my room," she replied in a shaking voice. "There's no doll here," scoffed my aunt, which prompted Poppy to wrench open the door and scream again. "There was! She was there! It was Lily's doll, possessed by the devil." "I can't find Hannah in my room," I said to add to the convincing story. "Maybe she moved on her own." "Maybe it was just a dream," suggested my mum. "Or a trick of the light," I added. "The stained glass window can make you see things sometimes." Or maybe she really did move. Poppy was shaken but recovered a little bit. However, I did turn her as white as a ghost when I pulled Hannah from underneath the breakfast table, announcing, "Oh, look, silly me. Here she is." Silly Hannah, talking to the spirits again. I don't think that went down either. So, Father Simon, I need forgiveness, not from Poppy, who, as one, it was the best prank I've ever played to this day, and two, Poppy has grown up to be a kind and confident young woman who isn't scared of horror movies at all. However, I do seek forgiveness from my aunt for waking her up and from our neighbours for interrupting their morning stroopwafels.
Strop waffles.
Strop waffles. Is it?
And what are they exactly?
Yeah.
Well, they're those syrup biscuits, aren't they? Biscuits and syrup.
Strop
Sandwich
waffles
in
sounds
between
like the
strop
kind of thing
waffles.
you have when you're really angry food. I need a strop waffle.
That you throw at people.
Yeah, that's very good. In fact, I hadn't even noticed that word was there right at the end. Okay, strop waffle, very good. What do you think, Joe?
I think completely forgiven, because we've all been there. You have complete devotion and you really look up to somebody and then they reject you, which is exactly, really, in essence, what happened here.
You're saying that happened to you?
I'm speaking about a friend who this might have happened to.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So to be rejected, obviously there's, it's hurtful. It's really, really hurtful. So maybe she got her comeuppance and her just desserts, and it was, I understand this action. I think it's brilliant.
Okay. Bobby, what have you got there?
Well, I'm kind of in agreement. Yeah, rejection and definitely just desserts, because you rejected her. She's looking forward to you coming, Poppy, and I think, yeah, I'm understanding why Lily acted that way, because she was really upset and you wanted, you wanted to go into another bedroom. So there you go. That's what happens.
Yeah.
When
nice.
you're mean to an 8-year-old, be nice.
Some dolls are scary, though, don't you
No,
think?
the thing is I am scared of it. I think I know that film as well, and I'm not a doll fan, I have to say. Even now, I love a clown, can't handle a doll. But I do understand Lily's pain. You were 8 years old, she was older than you, she could have been kinder. There you go, that's what happens.
Does anyone remember from play school the doll Hamble?
Yes.
Yes. Enough said, right? There was no scarier doll than Hamble in play school.
Yeah.
Is that where the doll Annabelle came from? Because that was super scary as well.
My son is terrified and he's 17.